Hey guys, this is in this video we'll be seeing how I made this Spiderman animation on Blender. Before that, this is not a beginner tutorial. This is my workflow explanation. So sit back and relax. First thing, we need a 3D model of Spiderman. But I'm not good at 3D modeling, so I'm going to be using one of those models that are available on the internet for free. I'm using this one by Gwen from Instagram. I'll leave the link in the description. Go check it out. So, with Blender open,
There was the cube.
and we delete it. Then we add a plane for the ground and scale it big, very big. For the buildings, I added cubes, and with the Spiderman model as a reference, I scaled it up to match the size of the real one. To start with the animation, look for references from the previous films. I am taking the final swing sequence from Far From Home as my reference for my animation. After finding a reference, plan how you want your Spiderman to move around the city. Then, in Blender, add a Bezier curve and make the path along which Spiderman is going to swing across the city. For my animation, I want my Spiderman to swing into the shot, jump onto a building, run across it, and swing out of the frame. Once your curve is ready, parent your Spiderman model to an empty and add a follow path constraint and select the curve as the target. Then just trace your Spidey's movement and find how long it would take for him to reach the end of the curve and add keyframes to the offset. There we go, our Spidey is moving along the path. And don't forget to lock the view with the empty so that it makes it easier for us to animate. As Spiderman moves along the path, add rotation keyframes. Add a new Bezier curve or duplicate the older one for the camera and animate it. This camera is just for our reference. We will be changing it later. Next, we move on to the bones. Here's where things get complicated. You gotta put in your creative ideas to decide how your Spiderman has to pose in every frame. Once you have the poses decided, turn on auto keyframing and start positioning the bones. Start with the torso bone first because it affects the position of all other bones. Then move on to the limbs and then with the fingers at last. For the running sequence, I use this video footage as a reference. This is where I made a mistake. I should have used a video in which the camera isn't moving with the person. But we will get back to this later. Now let's just go on with the animation. Once done animating with the bones, let's move on to the important part, webbing. I use this amazing technique by Peter Franz for animating the webs, but with a slight modification of my own. In edit mode, select one of the vertices on his wrist and assign a specific vertex group for it. Then add an empty and add a child of constraint to it and select the vertex group as the target. This makes our empty to follow Spiderman's wrist all along the animation. Then add a plane, delete 3 of the vertices, move it to the empty, extrude it out and place the other end on a building. Then selecting both the empty and the vertex, press Ctrl H and hook the vertex to the empty. Then hook the other end to a new object. Then subdivide the web. Now move forward a few frames, add a keyframe to the empty on the wall and come back to the original frame and move the empty to the wrist and add a keyframe. so that it looks like it gets shot out of the wrist. Then add a vertex group with both the ends selected. Add a cloth physics and select the vertex group as a pin group. Keyframe the shrinking factor at 1 when he shoots the web and bring it down when it comes out. Then add a subdivision surface, a screw modifier and a solidify modifier to give thickness to the webs. Then keyframe the render visibility so that it appears only after it gets shot. And it should look something like this. Don't forget to bake the simulation before adding keyframes on the visibility. Do the same with all other webs. Now let's move on to the city. Making the city is way easier than you think. Focus mainly on the buildings which are closer to the camera. For me, it's this building across which Spiderman runs. So, I took this building for my reference and recreated it. Noise texture helped me creating these irregularities on the reflection. I even added floors, pillars and lights to get the parallax effect. And for the other buildings, I found this 3D model on Sketchfab with Daniel. But the textures were not assigned properly, so I had to do it manually. I also made several changes to the material shaders to make it as realistic as possible. I also made a few buildings by extruding out windows and stuff. I also downloaded this photo scan by Brian on Sketchfab. I duplicated it a few times to fill the background. I added a new camera and keyframed it across the whole animation. I used an HDRI and two suns to get the desired lighting. But still, our city lacked one thing: depth. Depth is something that gives realism. So I added a cube, scaled it up to cover the whole city, and I added a volume scatter node in the material shader instead of a principal volume because we won't be needing the volume absorption this time. Then, one thing that I noticed in the newer Spider-Man films is that they use multiple camera angles for a single swing sequence. So I added multiple cameras too. And for the roads, I took this image and removed the vehicles using Photoshop. And then I imported it into Blender and separated the roads and the pavements using knife tool. I also changed a few things in the material shader to make it more realistic. Then I duplicated it and placed it wherever I want. And for the cars, I used these models with Daniel on Sketchfab. The textures were not assigned again, so I had to do it manually. Then I parented the cars to an empty and animated it. I did not want to import different car models every time, so I used a trick. I added a color ramp with different colors to the principal shader and connected the random value as the fact. So whenever I duplicate the car, the color changes. So I get a different color car each time I duplicate it. I added a few camera shakes and tried rendering out in Workbench. Then I found that the learning sequence was too fast. Like I told before, I didn't use a static camera shot as a reference. So I slowed down the whole animation, added extra few steps to the running sequence, and it looked fine.
Nice.
And finally, we hit render. Don't forget to optimize your render settings before hitting render. I rendered it in Filmic Log so that I can color grade it later on Davinci Resolve. Then I found that this city model was too glittering because it had many overlapping faces. I even tried rendering out in higher samples, but still I didn't get any improvement. So I just left it as it is. So the animation is ready. Then I color graded it on Davinci Resolve and added sound effects. In this process, I found the references being a lot helpful. So try looking for more inspiration and references before you start animating. Anyways, Like and subscribe for more. And let me know in the comments about your opinion. See ya.